Hello everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the Miniature Menagerie. In this episode, I create basic dungeon tiles as a one-day project. Without further ado, let's get right into today's video. Welcome to D20 in the Sky. So, basic dungeon tiles are definitely a project which I've been wanting to do on the channel for a long time, and really, I don't have any homemade dungeon tiles except for the inn which we made, which I wouldn't really qualify as dungeon tiles because they aren't made for a dungeon. But all of that lingo aside, I thought I'd just do basic dungeon tiles as a single day project, just from start to finish, creating these from scratch in a single day. So, let's get right into what you're going to need for this one-day project. So, now that you have everything which you need gathered up so that you can do this project, let's start by taking our piece of formula and start measuring out, start marking out 2" by 2" squares. Now you're going to want to be as precise as possible here because this is going to be the template by which you're going to make your dungeon tiles. 2" by 2" dungeon tiles are kind of the standard size, so that you have 4 1" squares which you can actually put miniatures on. When measuring everything, double check your measurements. It goes a long way. Now that you have all of your formula marked out, you're going to want to take your box cutter or X-Acto knife and start slicing those 2" squares off of the main bulk of your formula. This shouldn't take too long. Now if your formula is thicker than the length of your X-Acto knife blade or your box cutter blade, it's okay to slice as deep as you can with your knife and then break off the rest. Just break off the rest of the formula with your hands. That's what I personally did because I didn't have a long enough blade on my box cutter, and it worked just fine. Now that you have all of your formula broken up into 2" by 2" blocks, you're going to want to cut them to the right depth. Now for me, my formula was not as thin as these actual finished dungeon tiles. So what I did was I took my blocks of formula, I sliced around the perimeter of them halfway through the thickness, and then just broke it off so that I had 2 thinner 2" by 2" blocks of formula. Now that you have all of your formula cut into 2" by 2" blocks, you're going to want to sand the edges to make sure that they're smooth, especially if you broke them like I did, if you just snap some of the formula with your hands. Because you're going to want the edges to be clean so that all of your finished dungeon tiles can click together nicely. Now comes the tricky part. Trying to make these slices of formula look like actual square stonework. I personally started by marking out a cross symbol, dividing each of those little slices of formula into 4 equal squares. Next, I made a V-shaped cut along those markings so that I separated each piece into 4 stepping stones, kind of like a piece of chocolate. Next, I cut and sanded down the tops of those stepping stones so that they weren't jutting out of the rest of the stonework. And then I used my X-Acto knife. You can use a box cutter, but I personally used a more precise X-Acto knife to kind of scratch out and mar up these pieces of foamular. You can actually make kind of cracks and slices by slicing some of these stepping stones, and maybe even using the knife backwards, the backside of the knife, to actually kind of make crumbling stonework. I continued this for all of my pieces, trying to make them as clean as I possibly could, and as stone-like as I possibly could, and then I was ready to paint. Now for painting, I did my usual stonework job with a darker tone of gray on the bottom, just put that darker tone of gray on, and then after that dried, I put some lighter gray by dry brushing and kind of hitting the highlights, the highest points of the stonework, and really making it pop. Now, these didn't really seem finished after I just painted them, so I simply added some satin varnish to really make them sparkle like stonework and kind of glint like stonework, and just let them sit overnight. And over the course of one day, I was able to make these basic dungeon tiles, and they turned out pretty darn good. If you have any questions about the steps which I took to create these basic dungeon tiles, then please be sure to ask me in the comments. I'm always happy to help when people try and replicate the projects which I do here on the channel. And please, click the eye up in this corner, it should be up there, where I have a poll of whether you guys want me to make another episode of the Miniature Menagerie where I try and create wall and corner dungeon tiles as a one-day project. If you enjoyed the video, then please be sure to hit that like button and that subscribe button, and if you want to see more content like this, then please hit that notification bell so you don't miss a single one of my videos. Anyway, you all have a great day. Keep on creating, stay safe, and I will see you in the next video. Go. Oh my god. Yes! Stronger. Yeah! Go, Miriam!